In this particular time spent together, more of you speaking to us about national needs, national gaps in evaluation, as we are moving into a space of very ambitious goals, the Sustainable Development Agenda that is meant to be implemented by all countries everywhere in 15 years for the full eradication of poverty and for inclusive governance, peace, and stability. I represent UNDP in this session, and in my own presentation, I will make an introduction as to our approach to evaluation and the importance that we attach to evaluation in our management processes. But before that, I would like to introduce the speakers of this session, very senior, distinguished panelists who will join me gradually in delivering their presentations and comments. So again, my name is Simona Marinescu. I'm Chief Development Impact Group in the United Nations Development Program, and I'm particularly humbled to be here with so many senior minds from the evaluation community, as well as representatives of governments. We hope we will have a session in which we will be able to learn from one another. So, if nothing else different than the previous session, we will have a better gender balance on the floor today with more women speaking. And we will start actually with our first speaker who will join us remotely. And I am very pleased to introduce to the session today Ms. Barbara Rosenstein, Chairperson of the Israeli Association for Program Evaluation. Ms. Rosenstein connects via teleconference, but I just want to mention that in the audience there is a colleague of Mrs. Rosenstein in this particular study that will be presented, Mr. Asela Kalugampitia, just in case there will be questions from the floor that Barbara will not be able to hear and to answer. Now, so welcome to our session this morning. You are in the hall of the National Evaluation Capacity, the 4th National Evaluation Capacity that is organized by the United Nations Development Program Independent Evaluation Office with a series of partners. This session is dedicated to national capacities, national policies. So we very much welcome your input. So the microphone is yours to present the status of national evaluation policies worldwide. Over to you.
The definition for national evaluation policy in this study is a legislated or recognized policy that serves as a basis for evaluation across government agencies. So on the one hand, it's a broad definition, but on the other hand, it's a recognized policy with documentation, and that's an important feature. The way that I collected the data was through a search of the internet, government websites, international funding agencies, evaluation organizations, and then the main source of information was correspondences with key players and the generosity of people to share their knowledge with me was amazing. So thanks to everybody who helped me. This is what emerged from the study. There are evaluation policies in practice, and there are formalized or non-formalized policies. So that you would think that if there's a national evaluation policy, it would be well established. Well, that's not the case, okay? Some formalized policies, there are 14 countries out of the 59 with formalized policies and 3 with non-formalized policies, but these 17 countries have well-established evaluation practice and policy. Okay, then there are evolving national evaluation policies, and some, it's equally divided between the formalized and the non-formalized. That is that some countries institutionalize a policy before they've really practiced it and worked out all the fine-tuning. So they're still evolving. And then some are developing. Developing means that they're just beginning. Evolving means that they have a policy, but they keep changing it. So in the developing policies, there are 7 countries which have formalized policies, but they're really in the very beginning stages. And then there are non-formalized policies, and they're, as would be expected, they're more developing in the very early stages. These are the countries that I have listed as formalized. If you don't see your country or you have an objection to the categorization, please let me know. I used the best information I could, but again, it's almost 9 months since I completed the study, and there have been changes. These are the countries that have non-formalized evaluation policies. That is, there's nothing written, but they have a well-established practice of evaluation. Another area that I covered was the administering bodies responsible for implementation. And here there's a big crossover. Many countries have the evaluation policy sits in the president or the prime minister or with the cabinet, but it's administered directly through the finance and planning department. Some countries, 8 countries, have the policy administered through the audit office. And then there are 19 countries that have just a combination of administering bodies. It's not only always clear from the documentation who is the prime administrator. The sectors where the national evaluation policy is conducted or for which it's intended break down into the whole of government, development projects, or all sectors, and others. Others are NGOs or social businesses, social enterprise, a variety of sectors. Most national policies apply to the whole of government. Some are restricted to development projects, which is a shame because every project needs evaluation, in my opinion. And I think one can learn from evaluation in all sectors. What emerged from the study was that there's an iterative stages of national evaluation policies. And they begin, the first place to begin is with the help of a champion. That is somebody in the government who believes in evaluation and the benefits of evaluation and feels that it's important to institutionalize it. Then you have to convince the government. And here is where national evaluation associations come in. They can help convince the government and work with the champion on that. Then you have to formulate the legislation. If you notice, all of these arrows are two-way arrows. That means that you have to keep checking back to make sure that you're in the right direction. Okay, if you convince the government that you need a national evaluation policy, and you formulate the legislation, you have to go back to see if that's what they had in mind. Okay? It has to be context relevant. You can't just take a national evaluation policy from one country and stick it on another country. Every country has its own context and its own relevant system. Then you have to institutionalize the system, which is a very big job. And again, you have to keep checking back to make sure that you're institutionalizing what you want to institutionalize, because afterwards, it's very hard to change it. Then you implement the system and you operate according to the system. Most countries that have a national evaluation policy revise it periodically. That's just when it's working, all kinds of difficulties arise and the policy has to be revised. So as you see, this is an iterative model for developing an evaluation policy. Now, there are several challenges of having a national evaluation policy. In many cases, it overloads the system. This is what happened in South Africa when they first instituted their very detailed and successful system. All of a sudden, there were many evaluations, and there weren't enough people to read them, learn from them, and apply the lessons learned. So you have to be careful about overloading. Often in countries, there aren't enough evaluators to deal with the number of evaluations required by a national evaluation policy. So there's a great deal of pressure on this limited number of evaluators. In addition, many of the national evaluation policies focus on summative evaluations. And in the previous session, which I was delighted to listen to online, I noted that there was a call for midterm evaluation so that the learning could be ongoing. And sometimes this is too difficult for such a large system as a national evaluation policy. So it's important to keep that ongoing feedback in the policy. Often there's a stress on quantity rather than quality if you have a policy. You have to be very careful to do less better than to do more not as well. The focus on evaluation is sometimes at the expense of the necessary program planning. And in the first session this morning, program planning was an issue, and you have to be sure that you weigh these tasks properly. Now, there are benefits of a national evaluation policy. First of all, it provides a framework so that the evaluators in the country and stakeholders and evaluation users know what they're talking about. They're on the same page. It promotes evaluation use, but only if the policy includes a use clause, which is really important. That is, you have these evaluations, you have to use them. So there should be some kind of mechanism to go back and check to see that the evaluation recommendations have been considered, if not implemented. The national evaluation policy provides standards for evaluations so that you can maintain quality if the standards are written into the policy. It also supports strategic planning and implementation of programs because it keeps an eye on what's happening. And it should ensure better programming through learning from evaluation, because after all, that's what evaluation is for. So these are the benefits of national evaluation policy. And of course, it's important for the national evaluation policy to be gender and equity responsive. And I was glad to hear that this panel is gender and equity responsive. So it's very important to have a gender and equity clause in the policy so that it's clear to everybody that that's part of the policy. The next question is a bit controversial. Is a national evaluation policy necessary for every country and every context? Okay, is evaluation readiness or evaluation culture more important than an actual evaluation policy? Or should they move forward together and support each other? Okay, I'm giving the example here of Japan. Japan has a formalized well-established national evaluation policy. The act, it's a government policy evaluation act, and it can be accessed at this website. And they also have policy evaluation guidelines that can also be accessed. The policy is administered through the President, the Ministry of Economy and Budget Planning, and it has a web portal through the Ministry of Economy and Budget Planning and the Minister's Secretariat Bureau. So you can see that it is an interface of several administrative agents. And it applies to all sectors. Each unit, which is designed to conduct overall management of evaluation activities. Although the names are different among the ministries, they're all evaluation units that function according to this evaluation policy and the guidelines.
Very much. We thank you very much for the presentation. I think you set the stage for an interesting discussion. It is important for all of us to understand to what extent presence of policies can actually contribute to strong evaluation functions. We believe in UNDP that in addition to policies to ensure application, there is a need for good skills, for commitments, for continuity into the planning process and into implementation of development projects, of findings, of evaluation. So the learning dimension is actually very important. So I'll, with your permission, I will invite the speakers on the stage, and then we will take a few questions for you.
Okay, very good.
So I would like to invite on the stage our other distinguished speakers today. And I will start by welcoming to the floor Mr. Jesse David, Division Chief Monitoring and Evaluation Staff, National Economic and Development Authority in the Philippines, who will present today the National Evaluation Policy Framework in the country. We will also be joined by two commentators of our session. And I'm delighted to invite to the floor Ms. Riitta Oksanen, Senior Advisor, Development Evaluation, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Finland, and Mr. Per Oyvind Bastoe, Director of the Evaluation Department of the Norwegian Agency for Development Cooperation, also a commentator in our session.
Hello, good morning. Very interesting presentation. I have a question. So I believe that the best indicator to know if a country has a good evaluation system is to measure if that evaluation process has been used in terms of policy changes, used in terms of accountability, so all change. So we can track those changes. So I wonder if you have mapped something between those indicators, countries using evaluations, and countries having national evaluation policies to see if the evaluation policy is the one triggering the use, or if you need something else.
Very much, Gonzalo. So the question is very much along Dr. Rosenstein. Is the policy that is important and that is guaranteeing a strong evaluation function and the use of evaluation, or there are other elements important to that? Over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for your insightful question. I don't know where the first speaker was. The speaker from Mexico has a great deal of experience in policy. And first, again, I think context is really important. It depends the size of the country, the number of evaluators who have capacities to conduct evaluations. Very well for one country, it might be disastrous for another country. Separate evaluation department as opposed to evaluation departments in each ministry. That's the old question of internal versus external evaluators. And I believe that the two should work together because the people inside the ministry understand what's going on. They understand the challenges and what they can actually do. But they need somebody from the outside to help them make the best of that situation. So I would recommend a combination of internal and external evaluation departments so that the greatest advantage can be made from the evaluation.
And indeed, you mentioned that at some point. Our evaluation policy is mainly devoted to assessing the impact, assessing results of governmental projects, or they are in place also to be used for projects that are implemented by the civil society and by other actors. Over to you.
It's distributed. Some of the 28 of the countries that I investigated use the policy refers to the whole of government. That's all of government. And 12 countries refers only to development projects. In many of the European countries have evaluation policies only for development policies, which is a shame, I think, because I think they could learn from their own evaluations as well. A lot of NGOs have evaluation built into their work. Whether it's included in the policy or not is not clear. 9 of the countries included all sectors.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rosenstein. I'll invite our next speaker from the Philippines, and we will take further questions if participants will have questions for the presentation. Thank you very much. So, Mr. Jesse David.
Yeah. In this presentation, I will walk you through the government of the Philippines' experience in terms of formulating its national evaluation policy framework. I'll start with the overall public management cycle of the Philippines. I will introduce you to the reform initiatives on results-based management systems of the government. How all of these have led to the joint memorandum circular that represents the national evaluation policy framework of the Philippines. Over the years, the government of the Philippines has implemented various reform initiatives to engender results orientation in all components of its public sector management, in planning, budgeting, implementation, monitoring, and evaluation. The government understands the need to continuously address inefficiencies and bottlenecks in each of the 5 components in order to ensure that development effectiveness occurs, the national development agenda is achieved, and results are felt by the people. These reform initiatives are led by the National Economic and Development Authority. Next slide, please. The planning agency of the government, and the Department of Budget and Management. In the last several years, the 2 agencies have worked jointly and separately to enhance results orientation in the bureaucracy. On the planning side, the Philippine Development Plan 2011 to 2016 was crafted coming from a candid assessment of the binding constraints that hinder inclusive growth and poverty reduction. Results orientation in the development plan was likewise strengthened through the formulation of the results matrices, an indicator framework that contains statements of results to be achieved with corresponding links to specific items of the government's 5 major trusts: transparent, accountable, and participatory governance, poverty reduction and the empowerment of the poor and vulnerable, rapid, inclusive, and sustained economic growth, the just and lasting peace and the rule of law, and the integrity of the environment, climate change mitigation, and adaptation. At the budgeting front, the Department of Budget and Management issued National Budget Circular 532 on 28 November 2011 for the review of agencies' major final outputs, performance indicators, and their programs, projects, and activities under the Organizational Performance Indicator Framework. This is to ensure that all major final outputs are consistent with the agency's mandates. The initiative to strengthen the link between planning and budgeting was sustained in 2012 with NEDA and DBM ensuring coherence between the national targets, priorities in the plan, and the agency deliverables so that budgeting for the latter is anchored on the plan objectives and targets. Towards making the budget more comprehensible, more transparent, and accountable, performance-informed budgeting was adopted for the 2014 General Appropriations Act, showcasing both financial and non-financial performance information of each government agency. Further, a shift to an outcome-based performance-informed budget was made in the 2015 budget. This entailed the enhancement of the organizational outcomes of the agencies, as well as the crafting of the associated performance indicators and targets. The linking of the organizational outcomes with the sectoral outcomes and societal goals in the plan is seen to further strengthen the link between planning and budgeting. As a complementary initiative, and duplications in the performance monitoring systems of the government, an interagency task force was subsequently formed to undertake the development of performance management systems for the adoption across all departments and agencies within the government. We are aware that governments can only depend on reliable evidence to ascertain that investment programs and projects are able to achieve their intended development results, and to identify alternative strategies if interventions were found to be ineffective. The Philippine government thus recognizes the significance of evaluation to come up with evidence-based decisions. Finding that evaluation is of considerable value to department, agencies, external decision makers, and other stakeholders, to further sharpen the results focus of the government, specifically on projects and programs, the government set out to craft a national evaluation policy or a set of policy statements to promote and strengthen the practice of evaluation in all levels of the bureaucracy. The crafting of the National Evaluation Policy Framework underwent the following. First, the government conducted an initial review of existing evaluation policies of international organizations and development institutions. We also enlisted the assistance of consultants to help us craft a policy framework. We also looked at other countries' experiences in terms of formulating and implementing their own national evaluation policies. We also took stock of the M&E functions and experiences of various stakeholders, including oversight agencies, implementing agencies, development partners, the academe, the audit institutions, in determining current government evaluation capacity. Our review of evaluation policies and of different evaluation frameworks, as well as our evaluation capacity assessment, led us to determine the following critical elements of an evaluation policy framework: the articulation of the guiding principles and the role of evaluation in institutions, the clarity on evaluation concepts, the reference to evaluation standards, the guidelines on the conduct of evaluations, the clear defined institutional responsibilities, the presence of disclosure and dissemination protocols, and the conduct of periodic review of the policy. All of these were thus considered in the crafting of the National Evaluation Policy of the government. And after a year and a half of preparatory works, consultation workshops, meetings, the National Evaluation Policy Framework took the form of a NEDA-DBM Joint Memorandum Circular number 2015-01. That's it. The Memorandum Circular was signed on 15 July 2015, only this year, and it is primarily envisioned to provide a framework for the purposive conduct of evaluations in the public sector in support of good governance, transparency, accountability, and evidence-based decision-making. It is initially envisaged to apply to programs and projects being implemented by all government agencies and its instrumentalities. Basically, the Joint Memorandum Circular was issued to provide support for evidence-based decision, in other words, determining programs and projects' success or failure through results-oriented program improvement, through feedback and learning, improve current and future programming. And lastly, the circular shall ensure accountability by providing evidence-based findings regarding government programs and projects to development partners, and more importantly, to the Filipino people. The policy framework also determined that evaluations to be conducted shall be subjected to the following principles and evaluation standards: evaluation criteria of relevance, efficiency, effectiveness, impact, and sustainability; ensuring evaluation competencies, observing standards of ethics, evaluation plans in accordance with best practices, and undertaking evaluations with due regard to impartiality. Of course, reporting, dissemination, and use of evaluations. The major players in this National Evaluation Policy Framework are the following. First, the implementing agencies whose primary function is to prepare a 6-year rolling agenda and create an evaluation unit within their respective departments. Second, the Evaluation Task Force and its Secretariat that will provide for the overall policy direction and coordination on the evaluation agenda of the public sector. The department, the NEDA, DBM, and the Office of the President are the members of the task force. Third, an interim technical working group composed of representatives from DBM is created to ensure a smooth functional and organizational transition. Of course, it goes without saying that implementation of the pulled-out policy framework will be faced with challenges. For instance, our stock-taking of different implementing agencies showed that they have varying levels of evaluation capacities in terms of skills and competencies. In that sense, may be more advanced in terms of evaluation experience and expertise. The most pressing question that we also now face at this stage are, where do we find the budgetary resources to fund evaluation activities? Where do we get assistance in terms of technical capacity or technical expertise? And who will do the evaluation work in the agencies? Setting up evaluation units in both the national and local levels is definitely an issue that we have to contend with. In the last 3 months since the signing of the policy framework, the interim technical working group has already convened several times to discuss immediate plans for operationalization. The evaluation task force, who is tasked to provide an overall direction, is also now being organized. Actually, it will be launched during the conduct of our annual M&E Forum this November 2015. In relation to the challenge of budgets for evaluation activities, the government has enacted a national budget circular which mandates the agencies to allocate 3% of the total project costs for the purpose of monitoring and evaluation activities. Likewise, the government established the M&E Fund, an annual fund worth about $4 million for the conduct of evaluation activities in support of the evaluation policy. We recognize that the first year is most crucial in building momentum for the joint memorandum circular or for the evaluation framework. But we are optimistic that with full cooperation of all the agencies, offices, and bureaus in the government, and with the support of our development partners such as the UNDP and other stakeholders, the National Evaluation Policy of the Philippines will be fully and effectively implemented. That's my presentation, and maraming salamat.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jesse David. There will be one more presentation that is delivered by UNDP, and then we will invite our distinguished commentators to provide their thoughts. I just want to mention that Philippines represents one of the program countries for UNDP, in which we very much hope that the establishment of an evaluation function will actually support further review, assessment of our joint results, and a test country for what we want to offer to governments, and that will be explained in my presentation. So, Professor Rosenstein, you've heard another example from the Philippines with respect to how the evaluation function is organized. I will very briefly present a few slides with respect to what evaluation means for a development organization, for the United Nations Development Program, and why we do believe that investing in national capacities will actually help all of us perform better. So, so the slides that I will walk you through are actually quite wordy, and then so I will just use less than a minute for each of them so that we could engage into a further discussion. So there are a few points that I want to make. First of all, the changes in the development landscape, why evaluation is important and why national evaluation capacities should be built as soon as possible as an enabler for development results and as a safeguard for quality, after which we will present briefly the offer that we want to make. So UNDP is the largest development actor of the UN system. We are present in 177 countries and territories, and we are an investor in development that only last year disbursed $5 billion from various sources, our donor partners, our national governments, other non-traditional actors, to an I will change the slides myself. So $5 billion development investor annually, a knowledge producer and a capacity developer. This is our main objective, to ensure that at the end of every single project we implement with national governments, we have established the capacities for the governments to continue progress. And we also believe that one of the competitive advantages of UNDP is the convening power, the capacity to generate multi-stakeholder partnerships that are dedicated to development. I'm sorry I cannot face the entire room. I apologize for that. So the world has changed dramatically over the last 15 years and has moved into a very interesting new set of goals in 2015. So we witness right now changes in commitments, enhancement of commitments towards the implementation of an agenda that is highly ambitious. What exactly UNDP brings to the process is the experience that we have gained in 15 years of implementation together with all of you of the Millennium Development Goals, testing our capacities to ensure that we sustain progress towards less poor, more inclusive, with higher access to education, healthy world. And at the same time, we would like to be able to apply some of the lessons that we've gained through the process of implementing together with you the Millennium Development Goals into the SDG agenda, which comes to the point of the importance of the learning dimension of the evaluation that we would like to see in organization and in countries in which we work. So ultimately, the goal of the organization is to, to ensure that we make a significant contribution to poverty reduction and to reduction in inequalities. Those are two important drivers into the sustainability of the development models that we are going to use moving forward. As you all know, one of the ambitions of the Agenda 2030 is to ensure that we eradicate poverty in all forms everywhere by 2030, a goal that is highly ambitious and that cannot be achieved unless a series of development multipliers, development enablers are being unleashed. And evaluation and being guided by evidence, being evidence-informed and risk-informed represent two critical enablers. That we have achieved with our partners, and year through our governing bodies, through governments in countries in which we work. And those are results that are supposed to be credible, that are supposed to be evaluated, which of course raises the question as how much the investment in evaluation should be. We've heard here percentages of 4%, sizes of investments in evaluation from 3 to 4, maybe higher investments. For UNDP, further analysis is needed to identify what combination of funding, capacities, building more commitments would contribute to strong quality of the evaluation function, again, at the national level. So you can see what you cannot see because of the screen of Barbara Rosenstein is that in 1 year we have improved livelihoods of 11.2 million people in 94 countries. What exactly does that mean? I will welcome questions from you. We've created new jobs, particularly focusing more and more on integration of women. We have ensured that we've accelerated progress towards the completion of the MDGs. You can see that we've increased the number of people participating in elections. We have also contributed to access to healthcare for people who are challenged with major diseases, as well as response to crisis and resilience building, whether creating emergency jobs in post-conflict environments or generating systems for early warnings in countries that are more exposed to natural disasters. These are very significant results, huge investments that we make together and we should be able to evaluate. What do we use in terms of measuring our results to ensure that our work is evaluable? This is something that we would like to be able to share with you as part of our offer for stronger national results-based management systems. So we use integrated resource and results analysis to ensure that we are capable of coming up with marginal cost analysis of our work, how much a job created in one of your countries versus places where we have conflict and major adverse impact that natural disasters would mean. We use traffic lights to measure progress. This is a monitoring system that is developed in the organization and that needs to, every single piece of progress that we report should be further certified by evaluation. Our approach to ensure that our results are credible and are sustainable is incorporated in the quality assurance system that looks into ensuring that absolutely every single program, every single project we design is guided by a series of critical criteria. We look into how strategic we are, the strength of the theory of change that we are using, how relevant to national priorities, how efficient cost-wise, how effective, how much compliant with social and environmental safeguards, and ultimately, and extremely important, are those results nationally owned and are sustainable. So looking into the quality assurance system that the organization is using, you can see that we are making a significant step forward in ensuring that from the design phase to the implementation, we remain guided by quality safeguards that are supposed to guarantee that our results are solid. The evaluation in UNDP has two pillars. That answers the question that came from the room with respect to the right configuration of the evaluation function. We have an independent evaluation function that is your host into this event. The Independent Evaluation Office belongs to UNDP but operates independently in terms of the exercise of evaluation and covers vertical evaluations, thematic country program, global regional program evaluations. And we also have decentralized evaluation in absolutely every single country office in which we want to make sure that we understand, we learn lessons from the projects we implement and we continue to use lessons into improving the way we formulate projects and programs. This is a system that we would like to share with you as we believe that the lessons we've learned in using the system might be useful to you too. In the evaluation policy that covers the organization, we do have a mandate to contribute to national evaluation capacities, and we would like to contribute in two ways to stronger capacities. First of all, to ensure that optimal models of national evaluation policies, institutions, commitments, legislation needed are in place. At the same time, we would like to use the power of South-South cooperation to exchange models. If the model of Philippines is particularly strong, we would like you to be able to access this knowledge, the expertise, the lessons learned, and further use the model into your country. So the mandate that we've received through the policy makes reference to these particular two ways in which we are supposed to contribute to stronger evaluation capacities. Again, the results we report are your results. We implement everything with you, members of the government, civil society, the private sector, and we would like to be able to benefit from your national evaluation capacities. And we make an investment to that end. That would definitely reduce the level of investment that we need to make ourselves into evaluations and will ensure that accountability is strong. So you will be able to assess the impact of our work, what we claim we have been achieving at your end. The world has changed over the last 15 years, and it is in this context that we need to ensure we have strong national capacities for development progress. We moved from a world in which we would advise you as to what your priorities should be to a totally different context in which you're empowered to set your priorities, you're empowered to decide on the support that international development partners are supposed to offer to you. At the same time, you are also guided into partnerships that can optimize the use of your resources with the private sector, the civil society, and other partners. We would like to be able to contribute to your national capacities at the beginning of the launch of the new agenda. The Sustainable Development Goal agenda is not about the what as much as it is about the how. The world has gained significant knowledge, expertise into going about poverty eradication, climate change control, sustainable urbanization. Sustainability means changing the way your resources, your capacities are being utilized towards the implementation of the agenda. I'll just mention very quickly that we are accountable to the General Assembly, to the member states, to generate capacities in all countries in which we work. We are supposed to, on an annual basis, to report to our executive board, member states present in the executive board, with respect to the results we generate. And you have seen part of those slides. This is about the content and the level of ambition of the new agenda, of the Sustainable Development Goals agenda. We realize that there is significant pressure on all of us to ensure that you're ready January 1st to adopt the agenda into your national plans, into your budget strategies, into your legislations, to be able to make progress. At the beginning of the week, a conference dedicated to SDG indicator framework took place in Bangkok. We talk about over 200 global indicators to measure progress in the implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda. Definitely strong monitoring frameworks as well as evaluation capacities should be made available in all countries that are supposed to embark on the implementation of the SDG framework. You've been presented, I think at the beginning of the conference, with the offer we make to all governments, which consists of support to defining your own SDGs and incorporating SDGs into your planning, acceleration of the agenda, which means identifying the development multipliers that should be unleashed into the process, and the policy support that is necessary. I will go very quickly through this, as you've seen already those particular slides. So what is important is to look into, again, the enablers that will help you implement an agenda that will only give you a 15-year time frame to make the progress expected. We would like to see a stronger contribution of partnerships, more involvement of the non-traditional partners, stronger accountability, use of data systems, all these areas in which most of the governments in this room still have shortages. UNDP stands ready to contribute to your strengths in terms of governance functions that will help you into the implementation of the goals. And there are a series of contributions that we make to the UN development system, as UNDP also chairs the entire UN development family. What is essential is that there is an agreement, a global agreement already formulated with the UN development agencies in the lead, that among the priorities, among areas in which we need to make an immediate contribution to your capacities, creating monitoring, reporting, and accountability functions at the level of each of the countries in which we work is a priority. So we would like to be able to help you, again, create your monitoring and evaluation functions and capabilities as soon as possible. The support we want to make comes through a global initiative that we would like to launch very soon together with the Independent Evaluation Office, together with our donor partners, that would benefit again, your governance, your local national capacities into the implementation of the agenda. We look into ensuring that we have mapped your existing capacities and capabilities. We have identified the gaps. We provide the necessary policy support and resource support so that you can address those gaps. We would like to further support access to knowledge as a global public good through South-South cooperation. This is something that you may have heard over the last years quite intensively. We believe the South-South cooperation has not exhausted yet all its the entire power of contributing to accelerated growth. A series of recent books and studies that might be of your interest make reference to the importance of knowledge as a development multiplier. That's something that we would like to transform into a global public good through South-South cooperation. So those are the 4 pillars of the initiative that we want to launch. Again, I'm quite mindful of the fact that in the room there are very distinguished, highly skilled evaluators. At the same time, we also know that there are governments in this room that may be in need of support to transform whatever they learn in the conference into national capabilities. We are not equal in terms of our baselines, and I know the IO has presented an interesting analysis of where countries stand in terms of monitoring and evaluation capacities. We realize that progress has not necessarily helped countries grow at the same speed everywhere. And to the extent possible, together with other UN agencies, we would like to ensure that you get the support you need. So we would have assessment of your monitoring and evaluation capabilities of your national systems. We would look into the strategies that are necessary, the policy support, the type of policies that you are in need of, learning from all the scholars in this room, and Professor Rosenstein, who presented such an interesting analysis, and a series of other studies that are available to ensure we make maximum and optimal use of our resources into your capabilities to be able to be results guided, to be evidence informed, and to be more effective into the implementation of the agenda. So that's how the framework looks like. Those are the indicators against the goals, still under discussion, but that's a picture of the screen at the end of the session yesterday. So we speak about 224 indicators that absolutely each country in this room is supposed to report against annually through national frameworks. So the translation of 224 indicators of the global framework into national indicators is something that needs to happen very quickly. And then you need to have the data systems in place, you need to have the monitoring mechanism in place, you need to be capable of, again, reporting in a way that makes sense to the global results that are supposed to be presented to the General Assembly annually. In support of strong data systems, UNDP uses innovation in countries in which there is a call for our support, and I have just a few countries on the screen in which we contribute to big data for development capabilities, or monitoring and evaluation through lessons learned, and mobile data collection using technology for the monitoring of progress into the development results that you aim for. My last slide is about the contribution that we want to make through South-South cooperation to ensuring that you will have access to the knowledge on evaluation and monitoring that the world holds. We think that development organizations more and more should be in the position of brokering knowledge and facilitating access to tested solutions that the world has. Solutions that exist in countries in this room and that may benefit others, with the support of the UN system to ensure that access is made, knowledge is transferred, solutions are tested and tailored to national context. So UNDP has launched its offer to South-South cooperation that includes 3 packages. The first one is the most important that I wanted to present. UNDP will launch a global exchange for development solutions. It is an exchange in the very basic meaning of the term. It's a system that would allow governments to offer their solutions and other governments to request to present their challenges and to request access to knowledge. The Global Development Exchange will be built for you to benefit from. The UN system will only contribute whenever a call is being made for our support to ensure you access the solutions that are suitable to you, and then national barriers are being removed so that such solution exists. We would like to test evaluation as our first service line into the system. So next year, when the Global Exchange will be produced, it will be made available to your countries, to your particular institutions, to access knowledge, to engage into a dialogue, and then to be able to benefit from the transfer of knowledge into your particular context. So that's a system that we make possible. It's a huge investment that the organization is making. There is no such exchange available today. There are lots of platforms that share knowledge. You go on all the websites that were listed earlier today, and you can access information that is tested. However, to make use of it is a totally different type of investment that UNDP would like to support. So that's, again, to ensure that national evaluation conferences from now on will, while remaining an environment of sharing knowledge, will be complemented with a system that allows for access to knowledge, will be complemented with direct support that UN agencies will provide to your countries on the ground. UNDP is present again in all countries in which there is a call for our support, and we will continue to honor our commitments together with donors and partnering countries. I would like to thank you very much, and I'll welcome the commentators on the stage for a discussion as to where we move in terms of the use of evaluation, existing evaluation capacities, evaluation policies, and strengthened national mechanisms for risk-informed, evidence-informed development.
I think the main question remains, what does it take to strengthen the national capacity for evaluations? I'm speaking both having worked on these issues for several years, but also as a donor. So I guess a question that comes out from your presentation is UNDP the answer? And I would say maybe, but it's not the only answer, and it's certainly not the whole answer. I think we can look at the experience through many, many years and clearly state that what it takes is to have an approach that is built on the national circumstances. I think it is valuable, extremely valuable, to have presentations like the one from the Philippines and similar presentations that we have heard the last few days and that we're going to listen to today and tomorrow. We need to exchange experiences, and it needs to take the local culture, the local tradition, way of doing. I think that is maybe, if I look through the last 20 years, I think that's the most important element in developing capacities, to exchange experiences in different ways, through communities of practices, through description, through meetings like this. A common mistake is that we're talking about one system or one approach. Any evaluation, national evaluation capacity is more like a management approach than a system. It's not that you can capture it once and forever. It needs to be dynamic, it needs to be changed, it needs to be adjusted to what is happening at the local level. That is a lesson for Norway, for Finland, for all of us, that this needs to be treated as something dynamic, as more like a management approach. I've listened to presentation from the Philippines before, and I'm sure that you have learned the same thing there. And it takes time. It takes time to develop good approaches. It takes time to build the supply, to deliver evaluations, to get management to understand how they use findings and recommendations. So let's continue to exchange experiences, but let's build it from not from top down, according to concepts that UNDP, World Bank, any other international organization is developing, but let's build it bottom up.
Thank you very much. That's a very valid point, and we agree that we still need to learn from various countries' experiences before we actually define our support moving forward. We just want to be of help to bridge the knowledge in parts of this room with the needs in among other governments present who may not be yet ready for very strong evaluation capacities. Finland.
Thank you very much. I will also focus my comments on how evaluation capacity development is supported. In Finland, we have been involved in evaluation capacity development support since 2010, and we have been able to do this through the mandate that is given to us in our evaluation policy. We have indicated that capacity development is one of our priorities. The positive implication is that we have been able to earmark part of our evaluation budget to evaluation capacity development. The negative implication is that the money that we have available is very small. Given this limitation, the approach that we have taken is that we do not work bilaterally, but we have found partners contributing to bigger initiatives. We think that we are able to achieve more. The two most important partners for us are the eval partners and then the United Nations, several agencies there. Based on this experience since 2010, and having listened to the presentations today, I have 4 messages. There are 2 things that I warmly welcome. The first one is that in addition to the quite active global conferencing, we are sitting in a conference today, I hear that there is willingness to move to support country level. And conferences are fantastic. The things that I have learned about evaluation have been through the conferences. But if the link between conferences at country level is missing, then I think we don't do enough. So warm welcome to enhanced support at country level. Secondly, the importance of context. That we have heard it from Philippines, we have heard it from the presentation before. We do need demand-driven initiatives, and I'm hearing that that's the direction to which we are moving. 2 things that I would welcome. I think governments is extremely important. But again, we have heard in both presentations today that one of the limitations is the availability of professional evaluators when this field develops. So first I confess that I'm a vice president of a voluntary organization for professional evaluation. And the second thing is that I think that it's extremely important to work together with the VOPEs at national level to ensure that both demand and supply will be supported. And then my final message goes to the UN. I think that the different UN agencies and the evaluation units in the system have specific strengths. One of the reasons why Finland is involved is that promotion of equity and gender equality is a priority for us. In addition to the UNDP, there's another agency in the UN that focuses on these issues. I don't think it's a good approach to have separate initiative by the different agencies. I think that we do need one UN in this area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Both inputs extremely important. I'm now speaking on behalf of UN agency. Indeed, the world is moving towards ensuring more consistency and coherence in everything the UN is doing. I'm quite sure our audience is aware of the initiative that has gained a lot of traction, which is Delivering as One, putting together distinct knowledge, expertise of UN agencies into one product that is delivered to our counterparts in support of national capacities. I think I presented in the presentation of MAPS, you could see that mainstreaming and acceleration are our immediate support to governments to set their SDG priorities, but then there is a policy support dimension where policy interventions, inputs from various agencies are supposed to come together. Indeed, a long way to go. I think we still learn from our own mistakes. At the same time, we think that with the capacity we have in terms of being present, assessing gaps and bridging knowledge, we could contribute moving forward to stronger national evaluation capabilities. Maybe not UNDP alone. I take the comment from Norway into a positive way. UNDP is a national capacity development organization. And when it comes to specialized inputs, of course, we will rely on the professionals of this world. One question that would come from me for distinguished commentators and for Barbara Rosenstein and for you all is, with policies in place, with systems in place, without ensuring that we have the necessary skills of evaluators, the quality of evaluation will never be as solid as needed. And I think that's a component that is not necessarily addressed sufficiently in our debate. To what extent education systems in countries in which we want to see development progress generate good evaluation skills, to what extent we have quality assessments of the evaluation itself. If we need to learn from evaluation and to spend funds based on evaluation, we need to ensure that evaluations are of quality. All those elements are also to be considered into the national support we want to provide. So policies are important, but then ultimately we need to have the knowledge, we need to have the skills, the experience of evaluators to be able to provide relevant findings to decision makers. So I'll stop here and encourage you to formulate questions. I think we still have a few minutes for questions. Please.
I come from UNDP Armenia, distinguished presenters and commentators. Thank you very much. My question I would like to ask actually relates to usability aspect of national evaluation policies, and it relates to Philippines, but also relate to all countries that do national evaluation policy. The question is, what would be your assessment, informal of course one, on the whether it contributes, its feeds decision and policy making in your country, the results of the evaluation, and whether it triggers policy debate, the results of evaluation triggers policy debate. And second question I would like to address to Simona, clarification one, because related to these 224 indicators of SDGs which are must, are those really must or selectives, where the country office can select those which are relevant, or they are must for all countries? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Another question, and then we'll provide answers. We aim to end in the next 10 minutes our session. We've started late, so we requested a little bit of flexibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I'm Jacinta from Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm from government, representing government, the Ministry of Planning and Development. There, I want to thank the commentators and the presenters for very thought-provoking presentations. And my contribution is probably a comment rather than a question, and it hinges on something that Simona says, and that has to do with skills and competencies. I think in a lot of these sessions, this came out. Trinidad and Tobago is a small island developing state. Of course, we, as many other countries like that, we have limited resources, and certainly we would want to be able to get that support in the area of skills training. And I'm saying, how can we use the regional agencies, the regional training agencies, the regional universities, and help them with building curriculum for skills development? And I'm also saying that there are a number of evaluations that are done for the projects which are actually funded by the international development agencies, and that's also a way that we could look at training some of the persons in the government agencies by actually having that knowledge transfer, that understudy with the evaluators who are actually brought on to do evaluations for those projects. So I think those are two ways that, you know, the UN agency could look at providing that support, that assistance for building skills and competencies in the area of evaluation. And just to let Dr. Rosenstein know that Trinidad and Tobago, we do have a policy on evaluation. It was just approved 2 months ago, but we were working on it a year ago, so somehow it probably was missed in the mapping, just to say. Thanks.
Thank you very much. One more question, please.
Hello, I'm Dalgian from Independent Research Institute of Mongolia, so representing more civil society here. And one concern we have is that when all these SDGs and evaluation capacities seem to be more as being owned by donor agencies, it's like it's initiated mainly from top down. So my question is, to what extent UNDP or other donor agencies are ready to delegate some of their responsibilities to already existing civil society capacities or donor capacities, rather than owning and trying to implement everything themselves?
Thank you. Thank you. Should we take one more question? All right. And then we'll stop so that we have time to properly answer.
Hello. My name is Shyam Prasad Bhandari. I am from National Planning Commission Secretariat from Nepal. I would like two questions related to SDG. As we know, SDG are comprehensive, ambitious, and challenging goals, require huge resources and capacity enhancement to achieve them in 15 years' time. SDG are not stand-alone goals. Achievement or under-achievement of one goal has implications to the achievement of several other goals. And so many surveys have to be done to meet data gap and create baseline data for the targets. Some of the SDG-related targets also require intra-household informations, such as in nutrition, hunger, poverty, education, health, consumption, and income distributions. In these requirements, how to mainstreaming SDG into national, subnational, and local level planning process? Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll try for the next round of session. I will invite our distinguished commentators, the Philippines also, to answer the questions, and we'll take a minute at the end to provide my answers.
Okay. So with regard to the question on the usability of the aspects of the evaluation reports or findings, so in case of the Philippines, that's why one of the reasons that we need this evaluation policy framework is to strengthen our decision policy making. I mean, in our situation today, in the current situation, in our planning process, we base our decisions or our formulation in terms of based on project completion reports that were prepared, based on the outcome monitoring that were conducted, and not. And I can honestly say you that these are not based on a solid evaluation or full-blown evaluation works that's supposed to be conducted. No? So when we, for example, when we do a phase 2 of a certain project, these are we will base our planning for this second phase of this project based on not much pure blown evaluation, just a project completion reports and an outcome monitoring report. Okay, then with regard to the skills and competencies, Ma'am, we are the same boat as you. Based on my presentation, it is one of the challenges that we face. Actually, we do conduct trainings, isolated trainings, and I don't know if this can be considered as an ECB or evaluation capacity buildings. And the more challenge for us is moving toward ECD. You know? So we are just still that's still a challenge for us, and we are the same both in terms of that capacity building component.
Thank you. Our commentators, we come.
Yeah, I'll briefly comment on cooperation in the framework of donor evaluations, because that's what they most often still are. We do support the idea of using evaluators from partner countries. Unfortunately, very often this is often just a symbol. The role of the national evaluators is not in balance with the external evaluators from outside. We have willingness for that, but have not yet found perfect solutions for it. We are very supportive of the idea of collaborative evaluations, where countries and Finland would together go from the planning to implementation of the evaluations. And we are testing this approach this year in some of our country program evaluations. But quite frankly speaking, I don't think this is the solution. I think that the main thing is that the countries themselves take responsibility for the planning, implementation and evaluation of policies. So little things can be done through cooperation with donors, but the real solutions are elsewhere. Thank you.
Let me also comment on the comment from Mongolia, because I think it's extremely valuable to look at the capacity at the local level. I know that Mongolia has strong civil society organizations, and I assume many of the countries do. The whole idea with the type of capacity assessment that UNDP is coming up with is exactly to map and to assess who has the capacities at the local level. So I assume, as one of the partners with UNDP, that this is happening and that we are using available capacities at the national level.
Thank you very much. Maybe one word on that. UNDP works using national implementation modalities in the majority of the work we are doing, which means that we work with national partners, whether governments or civil society. There is a capacity assessment that was just mentioned that we conduct. That's the only thing that we need to do to ensure that our partner has the strength, is experienced, and if there is a capacity gap, we are willingly providing support to fill that gap. And more in decentralized evaluation, we are using national evaluators. And this is because we operate in countries in which no international evaluators would ever come. We work in post-crisis, post-disaster environment where we rely as much as possible on national capacities, and we want to make a better contribution to that. Very importantly, together with the Independent Evaluation Office, we are looking into, in this offer that we make, we are looking into generating a certification process for evaluators, and I will mention what that is. It is about evaluation of development results that is a very specialized sector of the evaluation profession, for which, unfortunately, there are not necessarily dedicated schools. Evaluators are members of associations, but a certificate that would assess quality and would help us build stronger rosters is not in place. Of course, this is being discussed with institutions, education institutions, and some of them already in a dialogue with the Independent Evaluation Office, as well as with UNDP in country offices. So there is a major investment that is required. We do not have all the answers that this room has, and this is because using evaluation is, in most of the cases, painful for decision makers because there are critical findings, there are, it's not a profession that would enjoy a lot of friendship, that's one thing. The other element is that your findings and your recommendations, if you're evaluators in this room, generate huge costs. And there is always resistance to pursuing all the recommendations because of the costs incurred. So having strong evaluation capacities, and we need to make an investment in that, would help on various fronts, mainly ensuring that what you recommend to us to do is of quality, is relevant, is necessary, is the right way moving forward. That's something that we haven't solved yet, nor did our partners, our provider of resources. We know very well that all evaluation units are challenged with absolutely the same issues. The independence of evaluation requires that we contract external evaluators, independent evaluators. We cannot evaluate ourselves. There is no self-evaluation in UNDP at all. Our monitoring and evaluation colleagues in country offices are managing evaluations, are not conducting evaluations. So we depend on the quality of evaluators that exist in the market, which is a big challenge. So we would like to be able to invest in, again, stronger capacities, institutional, stronger skills, and more learning. The weakest part of what evaluation means to any organization is the learning component, the contribution to learning. We are extremely interested in seeing how evaluation supports accountability. We present our results together with independent evaluations conducted by our colleagues to show our governing bodies that it is what we report is actually true. But then a series of findings that are very powerful and that would help us moving forward to learn and improve what we are doing are left behind. So learning and investing in learning is something that is should be a priority for all of us. Very quickly on the SDGs, and with that we'll come to a close. There were questions with respect to the indicators. The global indicators are supposed to be reported against by every single country. So all annual reports on SDGs will have results against, progress against all those indicators. At the national level, of course, there will be priorities and different investment against the SDGs, but global reports will require information provided by all member states. Then there were questions with one last question that came. So on Mongolia, I join the answer that was provided by our commentators. We rely as much as possible on national research capacities, and at the same time, we would like to, when UNDP stops talking in this room, we would like to renew the commitment made earlier that we should work together towards stronger governance, accountability, and learning supported by evaluation. It's an investment that we all need to make. We want to move into a world, as commentators mentioned, in which governments take care of all their planning, implementation, reporting, with little support from the development cooperation organizations. But we are not yet there, and the challenges ahead are quite significant. So we would like to remain available for your needs moving forward. Any other comment from the floor? We would like to thank you all for being very patient and for contributing to our debate. Dr. Barbara, are you still with us? Dr. Rosenstein?
Yes, I am.
We thank you very much, and we will continue to rely on your valuable inputs moving forward. We thank you very much. Thank you.
Bye.